95% of the people in this world don't have a clarity in terms of what is their purpose of life. Almost 3% of the people have that but don't know how to achieve it. 1% know they achieve, but they don't enjoy it. It's only less than 1% which actually knows, achieves it, and enjoys that. Self discipline is something which is the toughest part for human life. And that is why these 95% of the people or 98% of the people find it really difficult because they miss that bringing in discipline. What you think, what you say, and what you do should be aligned. Social media, the people are living more in virtual and digital world. This FF Gen, when they fall down or when they fail, resilience is something which is really missing. Be a lifelong learner. It's very critical to be in the journey of constant learning. So constant learner will help you also to be better today than yesterday and work towards better tomorrow.
Hi, in today's episode, we have with us Manish Panchal, a thought leader and management guru who's charting new courses in the landscape of personal growth and success. With a distinguished career that includes as senior practice head at Tata Strategic Management Group, mentoring several promoters driven family managed company to transit to high growth, professionally run companies and founding the transformative initiative Guru Inc., he's also on mentor board of Startup Innovation and Incubation Center of IIT Kanpur and channeling his expertise into helping the next generation startup founders unlock their true business potential. So all our listeners, whoever wants to start a new enterprise of their own, please listen very carefully to Manish Panchal. Of course, we are going to today talk about his book Define Your Orbit, which is more than a guide. It's a blueprint for navigating life's 7 dimensions, which we're going to ask him later with purpose and clarity. And most important of all, he's the first person in the world to conceptualize the unique orbital framework of hierarchy of aspirations. Amazing. Welcome in today's show. So tell me, you're the man who's turned aspirations into achievements. What was the inspiration behind writing the book Define Your Orbit?
First of all, wow, thank you very much for inviting me on your popular show. Uh, Coming back to the question, my inspiration. So it'll be a little longish, but I think it'll explain you very loud and clear that my first 16 years were in healthcare life science space. And I reached to the highest level in the organization and I worked with some of the best multinational companies in the world in that space. And there was some kind of what do you call fatigue, being repetition, same customers. And I was fortunate to go through a 7 days re-engineering program by Sadhguru, which I've acknowledged in my book also. And this was sometime in 2005 and 6. And after that 7 days program, I wrote my purpose of life. And that was a transformational thing for me. And my purpose of life, I defined as I wanted to become a management thinker or a management guru. And then I studied these management thinkers and gurus, some of the best ones like Ramcharan, who's my mentor, a global management thinker. And I realized that all of them are into teaching, training, and consulting. And all of them had written several books. So I said, writing a book is supposed to be one of the bucket lists. So to be very frank, that was the first motivation, I would say. And maybe I was inspired to aspire. And then I started transitioning my life from there onwards, from 2006 onwards. Now, coming to the book, my first version of the book was titled Success Matter of Chance or Choice. And it was, written over a period of 4 years. So by 2010, it was more or less ready as per me. And when I shared it with some of my friends to do a critic view and review, they said, इसमें कुछ नया नहीं है. There are so many books like You Can Win and, so many. Tony Robbins' book, Awaken the Giant Within You, and so many motivational and self-help books. So they said, ऐसा लगता है कि 5-6 बुक का स्क्रिप्ट तेरे बुक में है. And this came from some of the who's who have authored, a dozen books. So I said, oh, then I don't think I'm fit for writing a book. And I put it on the back burner. But since it's in the bucket list, always thinking, how can I do something very different and unique? And that's the process when basically I came up with an article where it said that 95% of the people in this world don't have a clarity in terms of what is their purpose of life or their personal vision. Almost 3% of the people have that but don't know how to achieve it. 1% know they achieve, but they don't enjoy it. It's only less than 1% which actually knows, achieves it, and enjoys that. So that is where I realized that there's a huge scope where if I write something very distinctly different, then there is the scope of improvement for these 95% of people. And the bottom line of this was I found that the conflict, after so much of interaction with people, the conflict people had was revolving around what they think, what they say, and what they do. If there is a gap in any of these three elements, say think, say, and do. And that is where I found that it is all linked to what your personal aspirations are. And basis of that, conceptualize this unique framework of hierarchy of aspirations, which I'll talk later. Now, coming to the title of the book, because my earlier title was Success Matter of Chance or Choice. So I made a mistake by retaining the title and converted the whole book with all the aspirational concepts and thought processes around that. I had a formal launch planned in March 2019, 10th of March, almost 200 people in the audience, including my critic reviewer Peter Cunningham, came in all the way from South Africa for the book launch, Success Matter of Chance or Choice. But then in the due course of before the launch, uh, Peter had made a statement in his critic review, which came just 15 days before book launch event. And he mentioned that, Manish, it's a beautiful book. Only if the title of the book could have been Define Your Orbit instead of Success Matter of Chance or Choice. And I told my publishing house that can we change the title? They said, sorry, sir, it's all designed, everything is ready. And we can't change it 15, 20 days before because then the content also needs to be aligned to the title of the book. So we can't change it. Believe me, I didn't. I went through a sleepless night for almost 4 days. And then I told my publishers that I'm not releasing Success Matter of Chance or Choice. They said, sir, everything is lined up and, event is planned, the PR agency. I said, you can reduce the PR exposure, but I don't want to release the book, but we'll go through with the program. So let the panel discussions be there and everything be there. Let the audience come because they have blocked their calendars to come and visit. Peter has already booked his tickets from South Africa, Johannesburg to India for my book launch. I said, we'll not change, but we'll keep the event as it is. And we just released a old book picture, which was titled Success Matter of Chance or Choice. And I announced that we are not releasing the book today. The whole audience was a little odd. What happened? Manish, kya ho gaya? Even Peter didn't know that. I said to Peter, we are changing the title of the book to Define Your Orbit. And with this, there were a few more comments. I said, I'm going to work on it again. And we'll launch the book once it's ready. It may take another 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year. I don't mind, but you all will get my invitation again. And in fact, what I did was, basis of some of the other critic reviews, I rewrote the whole book with professional movie script writer and brought in more real characters, not more real characters only. In my earlier version, it was all, little bit of fiction kind of stuff, and only one or two characters were real name, real situations. So this book is entire journey of four real people in terms of conversation with me, just the way we are doing on every Sunday, being recorded and then converted into a copy of. So that's very unique. And all the characters named, you can Google up. These are real name, real people, real situation, and real conversation, helping them map their aspirations and partly achieve the same. And some of them who have achieved it on this framework. So that's my journey, 14 years long.
Your book discusses the unique concept of hierarchy of aspirations. Can you explain the orbital framework in that?
Sure. So now I'm sure you would be knowing hierarchy of needs. which was written by a very famous author and psychologist, it's a motivational person, Mr. Maslow. So Maslow's book basically talks about hierarchy of the theory was talking about hierarchy of needs, and the model was to understanding the motivation of human behavior. So it maps different motivations into a pyramid with each level representing different human needs. This includes psychological needs, that is, for food, shelter, clothing, sex. These are basic physiological needs, not psychological, but physiological. Need for safety, need for love and belonging, need for self-esteem. And finally, it talks about a need for self-actualization. So it's a journey, he explains, and very beautifully explained. And I understand this is being taught even today in all management schools and colleges, hierarchy of needs. And then after interacting, I myself have studied it and I found that in today's situation where the generation is very aspirational and they are not able to connect to this concept of hierarchy of needs. Let me give you some one or two simple examples. So, for example, uh, we know people who take monkhood in Jainism or few other religions where you may come from any caste, any status, social status. You may be rich or poor, but still you can take monkhood, diksha, right? And achieve self actualization or walk the path of self actualization. Similarly, let's say somebody who's very rich, uh, say Akash Ambani. Now, does that mean that since he's already achieved all the other motivational levels, that is, his physiological needs, his safety, love and belonging, his self esteem, does that mean that by birth he has to now think only or his motivation would only be self actualization? And that is where I felt there is a conceptual disconnect for today's world because these concepts were written 50, 100 years back. So that is where this idea of thought or idea of writing hierarchy of aspiration came into my mind. I'll give you one more very interesting example. See, I'm sure we all are going to be able to relate this. Today, even so, for my driver, he's got an iPhone. His salary is 25,000 rupees, but he's aspiring to buy an iPhone. He bought an iPhone, new one. So, I mean, was it his need? I don't think so. But then he wanted to show off. His aspirations are there. He's relating it to people who are moving around him. So, what I'm saying is that hierarchy of aspiration was becoming more and more stronger in my mind. And then I thought, let's pen it out. So, the penning down of hierarchy of aspiration is written in a manner that it's a journey of an individual from ignorance to enlightenment. And that journey, I say it starts with self awareness, where you go inward, understand your strengths, your weaknesses, and map your personal aspirations or map your purpose of life. The second stage or second orbit is self drive. See, the reason is if you're not aware of yourself, where you want to go, what you want to achieve, what you want to do, it is absolutely futile to drive yourself. Otherwise, you get into that typical, daily rut of getting up, sleeping, routines. So self-drive helps you to be self-motivated. And if you have a clear purpose behind you, you are basically, getting up early. You're waiting for the next day morning. The third stage is self-discipline. So as you move upward in the orbit, self-discipline becomes a kind of a center point where, as like we just saw Mission Mangal or Moon. So Mission Mangal, may if you recall, there's a time where it says that it goes off the Earth's gravitational pull and then it goes into a different orbit. So self-discipline is something which is the toughest part for human life, and that is why these 95% of the people or 98% of the people find it really difficult because they miss that bringing in discipline. They do think about it, but they can't bring it. So that's the stage of self discipline. The moment you reach the or cross this zone of self discipline, you get into a zone of self confidence because now you know what you are speaking, why you are speaking, and the alignments start coming in. And finally, you reach the stage of self joy, where you are speaking something, you have great fan following. You don't have to, convince somebody for what you are doing. Automatically, people start getting attracted to you, and you start feeling that state of self joy. So these are five orbits which I'm talking about in hierarchy of aspirations. It's very simple and very structured thought process, primarily helping individuals to map their personal aspirations, and it is planning based execution. So I call define your orbit is not just helping you to map your personal aspiration, but also achieve by using some simple and very powerful tools in this orbital
How amazing is that? My God, there's such a,
frame.
there is such a gap between what one thinks and what one says and what one does. And this you've like really highlighted so well that जो सोचते हैं और जो कहते हैं और जो करते हैं उसमें जो gap है, वो close करना कितना जरूरी है, because we keep thinking and then getting down to really understanding why it's important, and at that time, whether that is really important to do, over something else that could probably be better for oneself. So, you've also spoken about higher orbit of life fulfillment and blind spot. So, can you elaborate this for our listeners?
Sure, I'll break it into two parts. First is the life fulfillment part in a
Yeah.
short this thing, and then talk about the blind spots. So, in my book, I have written several concepts. I think two concepts will be very appropriate, where I use this concept called IPO, input. It's not like I'm currently into merchant banking and we do mainboard IPO, so it's not a public market listing IPO, but it's input, process, output. Here you decide what input you want and what does it take to achieve that output, and then you start writing it. So I've talked about a statement: don't think it, ink it. It's very very important that if you write it down anything, so writing down is very critical. Don't think it, ink it has become so popular phrase now in many people around, at least those who know me or people who don't know me also. Second concept I'm talking about is PPE: plan, prepare, and execute. So once your IPO is in place, that is input, process, output is mapped, use PPE: plan, prepare, and execute to shift to higher orbits of life fulfillment. This is what I'm explaining in the book. Now, if you observe, I mean, some examples like Shahrukh Khan, Amitabh Bachchan, or any successful man, what it requires is strong will and determined personality, along with intelligence and hard work. These are very common talks which we give. The most critical element that needs to be added, which I just mentioned, is self discipline. And that is something which is heart of define your orbit also. So, just to give you in one statement, Sachin Tendulkar and Kamli, what was the difference? It is self discipline. Tendulkar, rains or sun or winter, 6 hours a day, match, no match, practice, practice, practice. Kamli missed it, and we know where it is today. So it is all about self discipline, and that's the best example. So that's something which I would recommend, that if someone wants to move into higher orbits of life fulfillment, they can try out these concepts, which are very well detailed and explained in my book, Define Your Orbit. The second aspect I'm talking about is, as you asked, about blind spot. This is something which is not my concept, but it's an established concept. There's a concept called Johari window. It's basically written by two doctors named Joseph and Harry. That is Joe Harry. Okay, so it describes the relationship between the self and others and helps individual in understanding themselves and how they are perceived by others. And this is very, very important because today's youngsters or fast forward generation are in constant state of dilemma that what
Yeah.
he's thinking, what she's thinking, and all those things. So this window consists of four segments or panes, four boxes, you can say, of human interaction. So primarily it talks about uh, four zones, that is open, hidden, blind, and unknown. So things which they know about me and I know about them, and I know is open. That's how it goes. And the blind spot is primarily things people know about me, but I don't know about them. And things which they don't know about me and I know about. So primarily the blind spot is talking about some of the things which I don't know about myself, and the universe is so big, and that is where it links to the perception of the people. And we all have all the four parts in ourselves, but it varies in different size in terms of introspection or self awareness or consciousness. And that is where I explained this beautiful concept of blind spot. And it's primarily linking into how we can take feedback from others, our and our peers, and that becomes a starting point of self. That's why I touched the point on blind spots.
So, you've also spoken about this word called FOMO, which I think everybody uses, the fear of missing out, which is directly related to, which is sad, is the word you use, stress, anxiety, depression, a situation particularly for the FF gen, fast forward generation, as described in your book. So, what do you think is the root cause? Though I will differ with you, I think FOMO is something that most people have. It doesn't only have generation. Maybe we've been able to put a word to it.
All of us.
I think
Yes.
everybody has got FOMO. So,
Yeah.
but इसका जो मूल कारण ये क्या है? What is the root cause?
Yeah. So before I answer this, let me explain FF Gen. And you beautifully said that it is across age group. So fast forward generation is not necessarily only those who are less than 18 or 20. Even me and you can be part of it. This is a generation I'm explaining are the ones who watch Netflix at 1.2, 1.5 speed. And all of us do that, right? Many a times. So it is gradually becoming a behavior, fast forward generation. हर चीज फटाफट चाहिए. Quick commerce now. So अरे ये नहीं है, 10 मिनट में आ जाएगा. And the whole system and situation is making us, all of us, become fast forward generation. So and I totally agree with you. It's FOMO is all around. So you know one, as I said, social media. Uh, People are living more in virtual and digital world. So because of that, what is happening is it has its own benefit. Believe me. I mean, especially the generation which is across, very active is of course most of the youngsters, because primarily they born with mobile phones in their hand. So this generation, so I'm talking of in the age group of 16 to say 24 or so, uh, are when they come into the business and market, think absolutely there is no risk in life. Everything is beautiful, and there is an advantage of that. Okay, the advantage is they are becoming more and more entrepreneur. I'm connected to this startup innovation incubation at IIT Kanpur, and I'm seeing some amazing brainy guys. Even, I mean, irrespective of where they are coming from, it's not necessarily you have to be an IIT, but interesting concepts, interesting ideas, want to launch something new. So that is something which is coming up on regular basis. Now, what happens is one thing which I found that this FF Gen, when they fall down or when they fail, I would use the word resilience is something which is really missing. Bouncing back. They miss that God has given this nature. It's an innate nature of human being. Let me explain you that in one statement. How many times we fell down before we started walking? You know the answer, right? Thousands of times. Every time we fall and we get up by ourselves or somebody helps us to get up. That is resilient nature, I say. And God has given it to us if we are walking by God's grace today. So this nature is missing, and people are living in a virtual world, not meeting people, and that interaction goes down, and gradually that resilient nature is missing, and hence bouncing back is a challenge, and hence they face or they get into a situation where stress is increasing, anxiety is increasing, and they get into a state of or situation of depression, and that is what I call SAD, SAD. So fear of missing out की जगह पे joy of missing out करते रहो. And I think we are good to
So you've also said something very controversial, Manish. You've spoken about copy shamelessly.
go.
What do you mean by that?
So, frankly speaking, I have met, I think, more than 100 plus who's who in this world and tried to understand what was inspiration for them when they started the journey. And many of them didn't know what they have achieved today was something which they planned it, 30 years back, 20 years back or so, but they were walking the path. And most of them, I found, shared that there is something which they were inspired by, and they started behaving consciously or unconsciously. I'm consciously using this statement, consciously or unconsciously, trying to mimic their inspiration. So, for example, Shah Rukh Khan, I think it's in public domain, like Dilip Kumar ji and Amitabh Bachchan ji. So he was, his style, he was trying to mimic in his acting like them. But nobody said he's a duplicate Dilip Kumar or duplicate Amitabh Bachchan. He became King Khan, right? And that is something very inspirational to me as an observation. I said, what's wrong if we copy somebody shamelessly? Because each of us are unique. So somewhere something is going to be different. And when we do that, it is, you become King Khan. Similar story I read was Monish Pabri in Business World. He's an Indian American. And that was again a very unique, interesting story. He's a multi-billionaire now. He copied shamelessly Warren Buffett, whatever investments and he bought this Buffett charity dinner for almost $1 million. So Warren Buffett asked him that I think you Indians are crazy. You're spending almost six and a half, $700,000 for 1 hour, 2 hour dinner with me. So he said, sir, this is a Guru Dakshina. He said, what do you mean? So he said that I've been copying you shamelessly for last 10 years and I've made millions and now I'm a billionaire. And it's all because of you, sir. So that is something I'm talking about. Today, Manish Babri is a very popular billionaire and making investments across. So this is what I say, copy shamelessly, nothing wrong in it. It is controversial, let it be. लोगों को बोले दो कॉपी कैट है कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है बट you are unique, so you will create your own path for sure.
Amazing. Amazing. Salutations to you for saying this out loud because people
Thank
feel
you.
so guilty. Manish, yeah. Fantastic. अब एक बहुत ज्यादा पर्सनली इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक है मेरे लिए अबाउट हेलीकॉप्टर पेरेंटिंग हेलीकॉप्टर पेरेंटिंग जो है ये बड़ा ही नया कॉन्सेप्ट है इट्स अ वेरी न्यू कॉन्सेप्ट हमारे जमाने में वी नेवर हैड दीस टर्म्स आल्सो you got in trouble you got a slap from your mother or your father gave you a scolding and you just followed and you just went on ahead but now you have parents who take so much of interest in every little aspect of the child till the child is left with actually no choice what they want for themselves and of course there is an understanding that children don't know what they want but I have a
Right.
feeling that children must be respected, but I would really like to know a little bit about you, in your words about helicopter parenting. What do
Sure.
you mean by that?
Sure. So this is very interesting. I heard it from one of my friend many, many years back, almost 15, 16 years back when we were chatting in US. So primarily, I call this term, I'm sure all of us can relate. I think especially our age group. My kids are 22 now. I've got twins, and I'm also partly culprit to be kind of an helicopter parent because all of us we try to hover around our kids uh, and uh, micromanage every aspect of our child's life and taking all the decisions on their behalf. And I call such parents won't let their children or child struggle at all and will do everything for them, hoping to leave the child free to pay attention to their studies or their career or the sports or games. मैं कर दूंगा बेटा मैं कर दूंगी बेटा all those stuff going around and this is what I call helicopter parenting. In fact, you won't believe I have a friend who's got a company called Keep Track, and he's tracking. He's mainly working in US, and he's the guy who explained this helicopter parenting. He said there are these RFID chips on the bags of the kids, so they parents on mobile phone at any given time know where the kid is. He's gone into the school bus now, came out of there, and they've tied up with the schools in US. A lot of Indian schools also have started some of these. And so this is something which I felt is like killing a caterpillar to be a butterfly. You know the story about it's a very interesting story that I've explained in the book. If you permit, I can share this 2 minute story.
Okay. Yeah, do that.
So basically, the journey of caterpillar from what it is from cocoon to caterpillar, it becomes a butterfly. Now, there was a small child who brought that caterpillar at home, and he kept it in a vase, fed that, I mean, it's a cocoon basically, fed it into the warm environment. And he realized that one day that caterpillar was trying to break the cocoon and come out of it. And after a few days, he realized that it was not able to break the cocoon. So he thought, let me help this caterpillar to come out of the cocoon. And he helped break the cocoon. The caterpillar came out, and after a few hours, it died. And his mom, when she saw, she said, "Oh, what happened?" He said, "Mom, I tried to help this caterpillar come out of its cocoon, and for last 4 5 days it was not able to come out. So I thought he's struggling, he may die in the cocoon. So I helped open the cocoon, and he came out. And then I think after last 2 days he's not moving. I think it's dead." So she said, "Yeah, beta, it is dead because the very struggle which it does to break open the cocoon helps him to become stronger, and that gives him strength to fight the reality of the world." And that is what I've explained in my book. Well, let us stop becoming helicopter parent. Let our kids go to the grind. Let them be, what do you call, rigid, and work hard to be what they want to be.
Fantastic. Of course, I've read this story and I know about this story, and I think it is, phenomenal, So, how do you address the concern that self help books, including yours, might unintentionally promote toxic positivity? The notion that constant positivity is necessary, sometimes overlooking the importance of acknowledging genuine pain and challenges. And I have a problem with toxic positivity. भाई तबीयत खराब हो रही है तो बस कोई बात नहीं, ठीक हो जाओगी, मतलब फील नहीं करने देते हैं लोग। जब दर्द होता है उसको महसूस करना बहुत जरूरी है। सो व्हाट डू यू से अबाउट दिस?
I think let me put it on record, Mao. This is one of the best questions I've been asked in several of these podcasts or shows or interactions or interviews I've been. One of the best question you've asked. And I'll keep it very crisp. I think if you see the approach I have taken in the book is the core philosophy is there's no right, no wrong. So if somebody is going through a state of sadness, let it experience it. Crying is also a very good de-stressing tool I've explained in the book. So it is not just laughing, but crying also is very, very de-stressful. I've also given an example of that Jab We Met story where Kareena Kapoor, writes something, burns and flushes it out. Of course. So everybody, I totally agree, goes through a journey of stress, anxiety, depression. Everybody goes through pain, physical, personal. So it has to be acknowledged. We should not ignore. So I would say we should not ignore. And that is the starting. We have to acknowledge that. That is the starting point, and then work towards changing that if you are keen. And hence, what I'm trying to say is what you think, what you say, and what you do should be aligned. So there is, as I said, no right, no wrong. So in my book, I've given a definition of success. Again, it's very unique. My definition of success is whatever you plan to do and you do it is success. And whatever you plan not to do and you don't do it is success. And that gives you happiness because that brings in that alignment. So if you plan to, uh, you know, do some wrong things as per the society, but you are happy, it is success. I mean, Osama bin Laden, I would say, is one of the most successful execution of the plan, isn't it? With such a high security, it's a successful plan. He was happy. So I'm not promoting that, oh, that is right and this is wrong. You decide you have come in this on this earth to make a difference or to do whatever you like to do. Just achieve what you are planning and be happy and successful. It is not required that everybody has to go through a journey of self joy. You can be happy with self awareness mode till you die. Nothing wrong in it.
What message would you like to give your readers, who are going to buy this book?
So I would say if you buy this book, first and foremost, as I explained, that it will help you to be a lifelong learner. That is the first thing I would say because it's very critical to be in the journey of constant learning and aspiring to be a in, constant learner will help you also to be better today than yesterday and work towards better tomorrow. By doing this, it's not just helping yourself. You may have some purpose which are greater the good, bigger than your own self, where you are helping the society if you want to improve. So it's very critical. And don't try to be in comfort zone. Don't try to be in comfort zone. There's a concept called boiled frog syndrome, which I explained in the book, where and this is real. Okay, it's not a story. It's a real thing. Where if you put a frog in a bowl of water, it will swim beautifully. Now, if that bowl of water is kept on the burner and you switch on the burner, the water will start heating up. The frog, by nature, will start adopting his body temperature to the temperature outside, that is of the water. He doesn't jump out, okay, feeling that, oh, it's hot. And gradually he adopts and he try to stay in that comfort zone for so long that when the water starts boiling, the frog is feeling the heat and still he's not jumping out because he's adapted to that temperature. And finally, he dies basically. And that's something called boiled frog syndrome. And that is why I keep telling that if you read this book, you will naturally move out of comfort zone. You won't become, get into this boiled frog syndrome and be a lifelong learner. That's something which I want to recommend to all those who buy my book.
Thank you so much, Manish, for being on today's podcast. And what are the future plans, if you could just share that with us? Any books that you're going to write, and what do you have in, what is it that people can look forward to?
Sure. So I'm sure you know that part of my royalty goes for girl child education with Nanni Kali that's mentioned on the last page of the book. So many of my friends have found this really transformational for their employees buying in bulk. And the next step is I've got a request to convert this into Hindi and Marathi. I've got few people who are wanting to sponsor, and I'm working on editing this piece to convert it into multilingual. So that is the next step which is happening. There's a sequel of this book also, which is again a work in progress for almost 5 years now, and again it will be very unique. It is going to be talked as way of life and around these 7 dimensions of life fulfillment. So these are few things I'm working on while, as I explained, that this is not my core business. It's more a contribution to make a difference in the society. These are the things I'm engaged and will actively support.
Thank you, Manish, for being on today's podcast. And we wish you lots and lots of luck. And thank you again.